Good morning to you all. Welcome, a warm welcome to all of you to today's event, this V-Gate Training Academy. My name is Ratka Jurkovic, and I'm going to be your moderator for these 2 wonderful days, full of great lectures and even more wonderful lecturers who have kindly agreed to share their knowledge and practice with all of us. Our first session of the day is the one about public policy, presented to us by Ms. Marta Turk. So Marta Turk perfected her business and economic knowledge and experience through practical work as entrepreneur. She perfected her business and economic knowledge at International Center of ILO in Turin. As elected member of the National Council of Slovenia, she participated in policy development for women entrepreneurs in Slovenia, later also cooperated with state agency Spirit as invited expert for women entrepreneurship. She is involved also in international cooperation with women entrepreneurs associations and institutions. Dedicated to development of women entrepreneurship development, she is also mentor for both young entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs. She is currently member of the National Steering Group for Equality between Women and Men at the Ministry of Labor, Family, Social Affairs, and Equal Opportunities. Ms. Turk, the virtual floor is yours.
So as Radka already introduced me, my name is Marta Turk, and I am probably now among all the group the oldest with all these experiences in promoting women entrepreneurship in this part of EU. So back in 1991, it is my register of activity for women entrepreneurship. I greet you from Slovenia, and I hope you are feeling well. And I must tell you really sincerely that I'm really very happy that we have this V-Gate, not just the training academy, but this force, this group of activities of women entrepreneurs all around Europe, because that is finally the ground on which we can plant all the ideas and develop these ideas to grow to successful women entrepreneurship, considering all the special things which we face and issues which we face, and develop this part which is important, but usually we are asked mainly from men part of our partnerships, why women entrepreneurship? So I am economist, as you heard, and I am an active entrepreneur, business angel, and also mentor with heart. Since I'm in the last part of my career, I also have a lot of time for mentoring and this kind of activities, which was not the fact at the beginning of my entrepreneurial experiences and activity. The structure of my presentation, you can see it here. First, I will go to shortly introduce my work dedicated to women entrepreneurship in Slovenia since 1991. And yes, I agree, it's a very long period, and it will not take so many years in this presentation. I'm happy to say that it was quite a challenge to change the attitude towards the entrepreneurship and women entrepreneurship from one's negative, underestimating, to respectful and supportive environment. I think all participants who are coming from countries in transition, as we say, understand very well what I mean by that. We are still hearing the question, like, why women entrepreneurship? Therefore, we will go through EU recommendations, and after we will split in rooms and work on a variety of topics which we consider should be included in the policy for women entrepreneurship. And you probably, since you are representing your organizations who are already dealing with the question of women entrepreneurship development, you're probably having a long list of good practices too. So as Radko already explained, the ground rules are that if you have questions, please write questions in the chat, and I will be answering to all questions at the end of my presentation. During that time, we will prepare the break rooms for groups, and if some questions will remain unanswered, we will answer them at the second part of the presentation today. So I will go through my lessons, which we learned, and I learned, and my group of women as entrepreneurs learned through the, let's say, the whole process of promoting and advocating for women entrepreneurs in our country, but not only in our country. I will show you some good practices, and we will have this time for questions and discussion too. So my story as an entrepreneur, I will not explain it because it is a long story, and I started as a very, very small sole entrepreneur in the very small room, 8 square meters. Later on, my husband joined me, so now we have, let's say, a family business, which is dedicated to 4 main pillars. And that allowed me all the time. So the family business allowed me all the time to be active also in these public activities dedicated to women entrepreneurs. And my husband, I always say, without his support, I would not be able to do that. And I call him, he is my feminist. First, when I started my company, of course, I was very lonely in this field because I was among the first to register a private company. Those who are coming from former Yugoslavia know that before that, the private initiative in business was not even allowed and supported. So when we changed the whole system and also the legislation, we were, pioneers on this field. When I started my own micro company in 1991, the country was also in a social and political transition. Those were very difficult times. And there were moments where one didn't know what to expect from tomorrow, what will be the future, what will bring it to us. I had at that time 3 children, now I have 4. 2 of them were very little, and one of in his first class of elementary school. My husband was working in construction business, often coming home very late. So you can understand that all the burdens and the risk of the starting business, family obligations, everything was on me. The country went through this privatization process, transition, accession to EU has started, unemployment jumped overnight, especially for women. There were very difficult times. Companies were closing down, a lot of changes. But I said to myself, back to the market. And apart all risks and negative effects of transition, many new opportunities were offered to us, to people with idea and strong will, to those with spirit of enterprising, men and women. Soon, other women entrepreneurs as myself gathered together, and we started our first club of women entrepreneurs. And believe it or not, at that time, it was not allowed to establish a non-for-profit club of entrepreneurs. So we had to wait for the change in the company law. In the company law, with those changes, the association of interest has been introduced as one of possibilities of legal entity allowing us to start an association, which was first voice of women entrepreneurs in Slovenia. And even now I can say that our association is one of the first voices, but we have many other sisters organizations now, which is very good. Interestingly, our voice was better heard at that time in OECD organization, in UNIDO, in WIPO, FCM, and other institutions outside Slovenia. But we were persistent. Through ILO Center in Turin, we learned the importance of having the representative voice in a social dialogue. And thanks to the Beijing conference at that time and the declaration, the raising voice of international women entrepreneurs was getting louder and stronger, also in Slovenia. Fighting the global poverty and economic inequality of women means women entrepreneurship, and I hope that you agree with me. Through the network of the World Association of Women Entrepreneurs, the FCM, we would see all the variety of burdens and experiences women are facing also today. Just imagine if you come at the World Conference where, I don't know, women from Africa, from more than 20, 25 countries of Africa are coming, declaring themselves as entrepreneurs and explaining and telling us their stories, how they do in their less developed environment, less supportive environment, you then really see and feel that you are part of global movement, and that's very touchy, I would say. So within the Prime Minister in Slovenia, also the Office of for Equality of Men and Women has been established at that time, and the first appointed manager of the office was a former woman entrepreneur, which was very important. That was a period of my mandate also at the National Council, which is the second dome of the parliament in Slovenia. And I took this opportunity also to invite women entrepreneurs from the FCM to organize their next World Conference in Slovenia, in Ljubljana. So media lights were focused on colorful ladies from 33 countries of the world visiting Slovenia for the first time and promoting and explaining the importance of women entrepreneurship. Also today we are facing changes and the transition is still going on. But all these years, when I look behind, I see those ideas and projects and changes and events and meetings and public speeches of which I'm proud and are relevant to women entrepreneurship for development in Slovenia, in some respect also in some other countries too. Because later on we were invited to Croatia, to Serbia, to also other countries of former Yugoslavia, and not only that, to European countries too. But we were not running all the time so very fast. So the situation of, let's say, the position of women entrepreneurship in Slovenia was not growing, was staying on the same level at that time. My first understanding of women entrepreneurship importance is actually a global movement that is also part of state policies in several countries like the USA. And I understood that at the World Women Association Conference in Tunis in '92, where I met hundreds of interesting independent business women from all over the world. Everyone was united by the same mission of entrepreneurship. Different environments, different possibilities, specific cultural and religious limitations too, but still one goal: to be independent, autonomous, and successful on the business path, and to share the experience with others. So that was the message. Until '94, when I attended the first White House conference on small business in USA in Washington, I took our female entrepreneurship as my personal status, and limitations were for granted. The path taken by American women from the many demonstrations demanding economic independence and also ownership rights led first to the passage of the Women Business Ownership Act, and thus to public funding to promote female entrepreneurship in all states, a certain percentage in public procurement, which was reserved for women's and minorities businesses, business educational centers, and support for women's business associations. That was my dream at that time. And that dream I brought back to Slovenia after that conference. So I later learned about the Canadian model of women's entrepreneurship, where they promoted that women's entrepreneurship is actually a special sector to be addressed. The South Korean model is designed upon the USA model, but the women's entrepreneurship is actually supported by a VIPE organization funding the world's exhibition of women's innovation. You probably have heard of that because it happens every year. The Italian model, which enforced women's economic equality through 2 laws, was not very successful because it's also depending on the political situation, as you probably also can see through your experiences in your countries. The Croatian model, with the strategy for women's entrepreneurship, and the Berlin, for example, Weiber-Wirtschaft Center, those were lessons to be learned. Because if you are not acquainted, for example, the Berlin Weiber-Wirtschaft Center was started by women from former Eastern countries, Eastern German country, when women wanted to save, in a way, the cosmetic factory, which was going down, and they bought it from the scratch. They started from the scratch and established a big center for women entrepreneurs, and it's a shareholding company still working today. And that showed to me that if women want to, they can do it. They can be self-sustainable, they can come together, and they can, let's say, fight for the same goal together. Well, there are many models now, and all of them have in common the provision of support mechanism and financing of various activities for the promotion of women's entrepreneurship. The internationalization, which is very, very important too, the inclusion of more women from the STEM field, and the promotion of young women entrepreneurship, those are just some topics which we can see today from different countries, and what is also supported by EU. I mentioned before, and we were facing all the time these changes. Whenever the government was changing, the approach and the support to the women entrepreneurship development was different. So it means you always have to start from the scratch with this lobbying and with this pushing to put in the, let's say, national strategy, in the national policy, also the question of women entrepreneurship development. And thanks to EU, I always said, thanks to EU and being member of EU countries, you can see the support which is coming from outside to your country in case that you are meeting somebody who would say, well, we don't need no special treatment, no special programs, no special measurements for women who want to start their own businesses. The EU and the OECD has made an important contribution to the adoption of public policies in this area, especially in the member states, but also more broadly. For example, the Institute for Gender Equality is following the development of equality between gender and development of women entrepreneurship too. Several DGs are involved, and we could hear also today the messages from DGs which are involved in the topics for women entrepreneurship, growing as a growing movement also in Europe. In recent years, we have been experiencing also a very new important trend. We are looking for businesses angels, women angels for women in women companies. However, financing the growth of women's companies is a very special challenge faced by women entrepreneurs at the beginning, as well as those with growth potential. Why? Because we usually consider, and it is the fact, that women's businesses are not so very lucrative, are not so very big, are not growing so fast. And that is not of interest of, let's say, business angels capital. Women are often excluded from growth-oriented programs. We can see that in Slovenia many times, because potential of growth is connected to innovation, to investment, and so on. And women usually, when they start and they develop, they don't have enough financial support. And their businesses are traditionally smaller, even very small. Due to limited access to finance, they are initially less likely to develop their potential, recruit additional staff to be able to grow, and thus ensure market penetration. State financial incentives, as we know, they must ensure equal opportunities for everybody, for all applicants, and do not differentiate them by the gender. Therefore, there are no incentives for women, or at least in Slovenia there are no. I have heard for some incentives from other countries, and I would be happy to hear that we can share these good practices. But again, it comes back to the ground. We have to push the policy to be changed. Also, the cooperation between, for example, the financial inputs from the state to some banks who are considered to be friendly for financing the entrepreneurship development. In the continuation of our academy today or tomorrow, we will certainly hear a lot about these topics, the access to finance sector. Still, we had the opportunity also in one EU project, through CIFBAN project, to make a research on the interest of business angels on female entrepreneurship. And we discovered, for example, in Slovenia, that they are not interested in investing in women because they are too small, they are too less lucrative, and they don't show the potential to grow. That's the fact in Slovenia. Therefore, we need to introduce changes in understanding also the socio-economic impact of women in business and their contribution in the welfare of the society of the country. Still, there are people, important people, decision-making people, who wonder why female entrepreneurship. Women have strong reasons for self-employment and self-sustainability. For example, when we ask women to describe at least 5 reasons why they started their own company, first on the list is the wish for independence. And then they want to be their own boss. They want to, or they are solving their unemployment by being self-employed. They want to prove themselves that you can do it. They love their job and they did not have opportunity to actually show themselves when they were employed. They love to help to others because women many times are working in the care sector. It means that they like to help others to solve their problems, to help them in their activities and so on. And women, they are believing in what they are doing it by heart. If you would ask the same question to men, they would put different things on the first line. Probably they would like the success and they would like money or the profit. So they are expecting that. While women, they are not putting on the first line the profit, the success, and such things. And that is probably, I would say, one of the answers to the question, why women entrepreneurship and why we have to support them. The second answer would be the reason of the fact of female unemployment. The unemployment of young, highly educated women in Slovenia was tackled with one special project which we also initiated. But before that, we did several researches which were conducted in Slovenia in the last 20 years, showed that young, highly educated women are not appreciated as workforce just because of their gender. Because employers, they think that younger women will probably start their family very soon. And that was one of the main reasons why they will not employ those candidates, because probably they will not be all the time with them and they will have children and so on. So the family reasons. On the other hand, we know the demographic results of researches are very negative. So all the countries are not having good natural growing of population. And if we are not supporting that part, we are having troubles. So tackling the other part of the question, while older women are not also of interest of employer to be employed, we found out that they believe that older women very hardly follow internet and computer technology. Both of things are not correct. Of course, that's not shown directly, but if the employer has a chance to choose between the two, he or she, also she, will employ a man with same education, a man. From 2016 through 2018, we conducted educational program for future women entrepreneurs, dedicated to long-term unemployed, highly educated women in Slovenia. This experimental program was co-financed by 2 ministries. The Ministry of Labor, each of the person who after 2 months of education and training started a self-owned company received €5,000, while the Ministry of Economy covered costs of education and mentoring through the National Agency Spirit. To come to that project, we had to collect a lot of numbers, which we luckily did through the Network MEMA project, which was co-financed by the Norway grant at that time. We had these very bad numbers about unemployed women with education, and we present them on different occasions, on different institutions, at the Ministry of Labor, at the Ministry of Economy, at the National Labor Organization, and so on. So we got some friends who were listening to us. And with those numbers, we really showed the importance of giving women a chance. We convinced them how important it would be to give all these talented, educated, unemployed women a chance to start their businesses. And not only that, we had to prevent their initial idea that 3 days program of how to start business would be enough. And we offered them also the concept of this 100-hour educational program. It was the first demonstration of cooperation of two ministerial sectors in Slovenia, which was very good result. And excellent results were also showed by 80% of businesses established, registered that time, are still active even after the COVID situation now. This experimental project covers 3 main obstacles faced by future women entrepreneurs. First is lack of knowledge and entrepreneurial skills, limited or no access to seed money, access to network and mentoring. And that would be the second answer to the question, why women entrepreneurship? Because we are solving the problem of unemployment rate of women. Here is the short schematic show of the project. So we included 1,325 participants who went through the 100 hours program. The program was divided in 8 different modules, starting from the scratch, from the idea, development idea, business model, financing, projection, and so on, to marketing, digital marketing, and promotion. And 16 mentors were involved also they were educators and mentors at that time. And these 16 mentors supported women also after their registration of company. So the results was very good. What happened with the program? After 2018, we had this, we faced again the change of the government, and the program was not very much, let's say, popular at that time. Money which was at the beginning meant to extend the program was placed to other, let's say, focuses at that time. But on the other hand, we can say that the agency Spirit, which is the agency of the Ministry of Economics in Slovenia, tried to take good practices from the project, and they still have each year a kind of competition for women entrepreneurs. So it's not dedicated anymore to unemployed women who would like to start their businesses, but to women entrepreneurs who are already there. They present their business models, and they are selected. So those who get the selection, into the selection, they receive some financial support and also mentoring support for next period of 1 year, which is also, let's say, one of activity which is going on. So why, again, women entrepreneurship? Why are we going to support it? I don't know if you have seen these numbers. For example, self-employed women work 43.9 hours per week, while women who employ at least one person, they work even a little bit more, 47 hours, around 47 hours they will spend of work in their time. The woman who is employed, as a difference, she works 39.3 hours per week. Comparing with men, self-employed men works more. There are 47 hours, they are engaged 47 hours per week, while men who are employing at least one person, they work 51 hours per week. The employed man is working 41 hours per week. But it's not that I would like to make this comparison between men and women, but I would like to emphasize the importance of balance of personal life and the career development. Why? From one side, we can see that women entrepreneurs are working more. So it means if you start your business, don't expect that you are going to work less and you are going to get more. It's not true. You are going to work more. But to be an entrepreneur, it gives you a certain flexibility in terms of management of family life, more flexibility and better balance between all daily obligations, the chance for having more quality time with family and children, and more flexibility, speaking of time management, which is a very good reason to support women entrepreneurship. This flexibility also applies to the time needed by a family with growing children, and the time after the children are less dependent on you, you can then increase your activity in your business, grow your business, and so on. And let's not forget one very important fact. There are times when grandparents also need to be taken care of, which is mostly also the responsibility of women. So the role of women in various social spheres, especially when it comes to caring for the elderly people, and after all, the impact of the lower costs for the state for such care is largely ignored as a fact. And that is also one of the hidden reasons why we have to support and respect all the business activities of women entrepreneurs, because they are taking away the burden, the state burden for many social activities. So isn't that also a very good third reason for supporting women entrepreneurship? FSMB fund, what does it mean? It's, as I say, father, sister, mother, brother. In Slovenia, I say BUMS fund, because that's a translation. We monitored the progress of our protege in that project, which I was presenting before, and found out that they had already encountered very many obstacles in the first 6 months of their business activity, especially speaking of the financial support. None of the banks was willing to provide even the smallest loan or credit, microcredit, for the purchase of, let's say, equipment or merchandise or activities, develop activities, and so on. So if they would like to grow, there was no way to address anybody with money to support. Even the state national fund, business fund, is not considering to give microcredits to a company who is not on the market at least 1 year. So at the beginning, you are on your own and on FSMB fund. So father, sister, mother, brother can help you. If they are out of resources, you have to stay and wait. The first year of business is already, as such, very critical, a time of adjustment, full of surprises on the market, new procedures are going on, new different way of working, and financial obstacles are just additional pressure. So they turn to domestic sources, which were already involved in a starting business, therefore they could not afford to grow. That is another answer why we have to help them to grow with public policy dedicated to financial support. So what we have learned through all these activities and lobbying and advocacy and of course all these including changes of policies toward the development of entrepreneurship as general. We have seen that on the list, first on the list as necessity is improved access to finances. So women need seed capital, women need access to microcredits. They don't need much money. They would be happy to get a credit of, let's say, 5,000 euro for the beginning, but they need it when they need it, not after 1 year or 2 years when they will be already a successful entrepreneur. Secondly, if we really want to change and develop also the economy, we have to stop to develop just self-employment and with that generating more precarious than really businesses. We have to monitor the growth potential and involve women companies in these different growth measures which already are in place, but mostly are not used by women. They are mostly used by men. We have to help them to access also the networks with economic power, because usually women entrepreneurs establish their own network, which are small network of micro companies and so on. But they need access, they need to meet people who have economic power, who have more possibilities, who have developed market, also international market, and that is the problem for now. We have to promote also better partnership between companies, or partnership when starting a company instead of self-employment. Because if you are self-employed, you are alone. You have 24 hours a day, which are your, let's say, time frame, which you have to split between family, between activities in business and other obligations. That means that 24 hours, you cannot extend them. You don't have enough money to employ another person, and it means you have to relate on somebody who can be your partner by establishing a company together. In Slovenia, we don't promote this idea, but maybe the answer would be in business cooperatives or entrepreneurial cooperatives, because this is probably new trend and new better approach for the survival of companies. Because, for example, with the situation which we are facing now because of the COVID, many micro companies, self-employed people, lost their jobs and they bankrupted, they closed down their companies, and they don't know what to do next because they were too small to survive these challenges. By being in cooperation with other partners, by establishing the cooperatives, maybe that could be a possible solution. Speaking of tax incentives, of course, I think that each country has different tax incentives, but maybe in tax incentives, we could tackle a little bit more friendly also the women businesses. What would be important also is to support internationalization. That means to support the expanding of small companies on the EU market. That is for us internationalization. Of course, we are common market, but that means again the communication issue by speaking of language knowledge, the issue of understanding other market regulation and so on. So we have to do something more about that, because the small market of your own let's say street on which your company is starting, it's really too small, and it grows very, very soon, not enough for you to survive for next year or for next 5 years. So you have to take, or the entrepreneur has to take the opportunity of development on the common market, which means from the micro perspective, the internationalization. So through all this presentation, I would say what was our network when we did all these promotions and activities, and we came to let's say, some good policies which are now included in the national strategy of development of entrepreneurship. One part of the equality between men and women is in a document which needs still to be accepted. I just checked yesterday before our meeting how is the situation with this document, but it's not accepted yet. So it means the definition of women entrepreneurship development in that document is mentioned 18 times, which we also managed to include it by our lobbying and discussions, but the document is not accepted. It means that the action plan will not be confirmed until that main document will not be accepted, and that is again the politics. So what kind of networks we were leaning when we were developing the importance of women entrepreneurship? First, we of course addressed women entrepreneurs all around the country, and we try to organize them or support their organizations or their clubs or their gatherings, because many times women they don't like to establish clubs and regulate their meetings, but they are meeting, let's say, in smaller local groups, and they are discussing the issues which are the most important part there. But we communicated with them and included them in our activities and events which we organized. We addressed the very strong organization of women managers, which is a part of the National Association of Managers of Slovenia, which is one of the oldest organizations. And one section is the active women managers. Because in Slovenia was quite an interesting situation even before our independence. Women managers were 30%, their ratio was 30% among all managers were women. It means that we did not have such a big problem putting women on the important managerial position. It was the problem with women entrepreneurs. And to just explain in the numbers, in Slovenia, where we have, let's say, the population of 200,000 different registered companies, more than 95% of them are micro companies, and 25% of them are owned by women. We have the situation that the importance of women managers comparing to the importance of women entrepreneurs is much more considered as being the case of discussions and support and policies. Again, the women entrepreneurs, because they don't represent also the economic force. So that is also one of very important issues which we have to tackle is what is the economic impact and result of an economic activity of women entrepreneurs, not managers, but women entrepreneurs. And then we come to also to the definition. Who is a woman entrepreneur? The definition is very important. All the policymakers know, because the definition also brings the results in the public procurement. It brings the result in how much money is dedicated for measures, supporting measures, and it means that we have to understand the definition. So we brought in also other associations who were supporting equality in different manners. Usually we have very, very many associations and groups who are supporting family problems or violence in the family or these things, not so much women who are in economic situation or economic position. Because it's considered that women entrepreneurs, they don't need help at all because they are so very independent and they have, let's say, economic support for their activities, which is not true. What we believe as Women Entrepreneurs Association and community, we believe that you can help a woman to fight the violence in the family or to go away from such a situation only by giving her a chance for economic independence. because we have heard a lot of stories like that. A woman divorced because she was, for example, or even she was able to send a man who was violent to a jail, but after 6 months of him being in jail, she went to the judge and she asked the judge, please let him out because I don't have money to survive and my children don't have to eat because I don't have a provider. So she was accepting the violence in the family just to have enough money to survive with her children. And that is not good. And that is happening also in Slovenia. So fighting the poverty is giving women a chance to be also economically independent. Other very, very important network is the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce in Slovenia has 12 regional Chamber of Commerce. So it means that if you are locally organized through the Chamber of Commerce, you can also get to decision-making process and you can get better, reliable information about the whole, let's say, economical, political environment in the country. We also addressed and cooperated with the national and regional labor organizations, which are part of the Ministry of Labor. We addressed parliamentarian women, journalists, small business development agency, which later on transformed to Spirit Agency. Some professors at Faculty of Social Science and students from that faculty were very much interested in our activities and we cooperated with them, and professors at the Faculty of Economics. These were, I'm sorry, our, let's say, network to which we were addressing our messages, inviting them to our activities and so on. So, how did we work? We were organizing many events. Each year we organized, for example, an event of bringing in 500 women entrepreneurs. For the last 2 years, we couldn't do it. We made presentations, research results, good practices, involving also chamber activities. And we were involved in chamber activities and members. We became members also of the boards. We were providing ideas and project proposals, preparing interviews and articles, and involving the issue of we in different programs and actions. A lot of work, meetings, and so on. So let's go next. Good practices, which are promoted also through EU and are the EU practices, which we remember very well and were not developed in all countries on the same level, let's say, or extent, is the ambassador program, which is very good developed in Germany, Sweden, also in Poland, in Croatia, in Ireland, in UK, in Serbia also. What is the goal? The goal is to, to raise the awareness about the potential of entrepreneurship and to increase women's motivation for business creation. And it works very well. So maybe that would be a good practice also in other countries to develop it. Then we see that in Ireland, they have National Women's Enterprise Day, which is also meant for promotion of the importance of women entrepreneurs. Through their coverage in newspapers, they are reaching out more than 2 million people, which is very, very big number. Then the mentoring relationship between experienced and novice entrepreneurs, so mentoring as such, we are using it also in Slovenia because it came from two different sources. One was the idea which was promoted through different EU projects coming also in Slovenia, the mentoring, and the other, the importance of bringing or taking the knowledge from experienced person to another experienced person through the association, through membership of the association. And what seems to be quite successful, but in some countries, such as in Slovenia, it's not possible to to establish it are women entrepreneurship centers. So centers dedicated only to women entrepreneurs, providing women-friendly support and loan programs and probably childcare program, or at least possibility that a woman can come to such a center with children, which is also many times a burden for a woman, because when she is active as an entrepreneur, she probably has small children. Many times it's problem to who will take care when I'm going to meeting. And if we provide women such a support in business centers that they can bring their children in, we could maybe solve some of their problems. Not only that, by bringing women and children together to business centers dedicated to women and family businesses, let's say, we can very early also teach and educate young children about the entrepreneurship ideas and way of life and so on. So this is also one of good role model and good practices which should be spread all around Europe. So what are also other good practices which are promoted also through EU and probably are used also in your countries? Developing skills and knowledge, of course, training courses and mentoring, incubators, accelerators. Many times in Slovenia, for example, are not dedicated just to women, but to everybody. And access to finances. So as I mentioned, small grants are very necessary, and women, because characteristically women start in services where there's not a lot of financial involvement. They start from their home because it's not very expensive to start it at home, but they would like to develop and grow if they would have the chance. The first chance is, of course, to have access to some financial support, and that should be provided to them. Usually, banks are not interested at all. We approach many banks in Slovenia, ask them to open special line for women for small credits, and they said that, look, we have enough, we have the same amount of work for big credits than for small credits. We are not interested in, because there are not enough, there's not enough impact on the results of the bank activity. Also large-scale grants, so let's say, I don't know, 25,000 euro, who are meant for support of development of the potential business ideas is necessary. We have a national fund for business development, and there are some large-scale grants like this one. But again, unless a business is not at least 1 or 2 years old, a person cannot approach for such grants. The venture capital investment and the angel investment, that you are going to hear more about tomorrow, but we still are facing the problem that women's businesses are small, are little, are not growing very fast, and that means that they are not of interest for this kind of investment. What, on the other hand, we can see that crowdfunding is one different story. The crowdfunding gives the possibility to promote the idea online, which means that women are much more successful in getting crowdfunding from this way of co-financing, which is a very good message. So if we are following the EU recommendation that we are talking today about policy, development of the policy, we have to put everything on through main arguments. One is that women are underrepresented in entrepreneurship relative to men in all countries. And also data are not, let's say, the same as the realistic situation. You know, the statistic is always showing different realization than it's the truth. But again, women are underrepresented in entrepreneurship. They are also held back by institutional and market failures. This includes also the attitude. even that, let's say, Slovenia is a very developed country. We have all the legislation for equality between men and women, for I don't know whatever. We still see that there are strong conservative attitudes putting a woman on her, let's say, traditional position. And that is very much also discouraging women to start creating their businesses or to create their businesses in another activity than in the one which is, let's say, a feminine business, in services and personal services, in caring activities and so on. So we have to do something also about that. And also some evidence are suggesting that women, I don't know why, and we can confirm it's true, they don't know about public support programs. They don't use enough the possibility of the public support programs. They are not informed. I usually say that they should be a little bit more interested and curious and sit down every morning in front of their computer and ask Uncle Google where to and how to I should develop my own business. But they don't do it. They depend more on, let's say, exchange of understanding and knowledge. And if they are not in the right network, which would exchange the good and concrete information about support programs, they are never aware of it. So we should do something more also about that. So new reality and new possibilities also brought in by the COVID situation. We could and we can deliver everything online as we are doing it today. So all the training, the entrepreneurial networks, access to finance, the procurement markets even can be open to women using technology. And that is probably our next activity in our home associations, what we are going to do. We are already doing, for example, in our community of women entrepreneurs in Slovenia, we are offering weekly short programs of education, speaking of digital marketing, different knowledges, different information, different informations which they are using very, very often, and they are very happy to have that. They are short, online, they don't need to spend much time, they don't need to go around to travel around, but they can sit down, and many times they can also ask for video registered seminar and get it and listen to it in the evening, as my previous speaker said, our previous speaker said, that is one of the possibilities that we take our time for learning in the evenings. So the Entrepreneurship Action Plan is saying that we have to raise the awareness, we have to offer training, we have to open access to financing, and we have to build a stronger network support. What I was missing all the time during all these years of activities is that women stick more together, that all these different smaller associations would be more supported to come together. Because if only with united voice, we can really make changes. That's also one of the reasons why I'm happy that this WeGate is happening, because we were looking at what was happening previously when WeGate was firstly promoted, and with changes which we are facing today, we can really see that it will be a European or pan-European movement, bringing in women from different perspectives, different knowledge, different expertise, coming together and exchange their knowledge, possibilities, opportunities, and with that being much, much more successful and grow. I will jump over because I took a lot of time. I think we have to think about also to our working rooms. But if we really want to do something, we have to include the public policy in the mainstream, but also understand that women have specific needs, specific way of life, specific additional obligations and responsibilities, which should be respected also by the whole society, because they participate in the welfare. So ladies and some colleagues, men, which are now participating to this morning session, if you are involved in women entrepreneurship development, I think it's an important message, and probably you know it already. You have to have friends in places of decision, and you have to make friends. It takes time to make friendship. And you need the data to illustrate arguments. So people listen and understand facts and figures. If you don't have access to facts and figures, try to make a research. Don't wait to statistical offices that they will take into consideration, that they will make some research only on women entrepreneurship. They will not, because they don't have time and it's too little of the segment. Use it in your hand. You need supporting groups such clubs, associations, formal and informal groups, and bring them together at least once a year. Organize meeting with them and listen to them. Supporting groups also have to cooperate, have one voice. And you need women on positions. So it means we have to support also more women in political position. We have to vote for women. Women have to be on the list for voting and so on. Without more women in political decision-making positions, we will have troubles to put really the policy on. You need also men with power and men supporting the idea of women entrepreneurship. That means a feminist like my husband. So at the end of my presentation, I'm asking again, why women entrepreneurship? And my answer and message would be, as long as at least one family in your environment suffers from parental unemployment, which is happening all the time and changing all the time, we need promotion of women's entrepreneurship, family entrepreneurship, and youth entrepreneurship. That will help. That will help grow new, younger people who would like and would be capable and able and willing to take over their business risk.
Thank you so much, Marta. This has been really, really wonderful. You have
Thank you for moderating, Radka. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.